Hi everybody, welcome to week 16. This is the final week of our course. As you can see, this module is very short and very straightforward, so this video will be as well. Hopefully you'll enjoy a break from my long-winded rambling videos. So this week there's only two things that I'm going to ask you to do. The first is, of course, your final paper, which we will get to in just a second. But there is one more course feedback for you to take a look at. These are not required, but I would really appreciate it if you took a few minutes to answer these questions. It is different than the feedback that you've given me during the course of the semester, so be sure to take a look at it a little bit more carefully. There's a bunch of questions. Answer the ones. If you only want to answer the multiple choice ones, that's fine. These short answer questions, they don't have to be very long, just a few sentences to tell me what you thought about the course. I'd really appreciate it so that I'm able to improve the course for future classes and make it as useful and effective as possible. The other thing you'll be doing this week is submitting your final paper. I've given you the final paper assignment sheet, checklist, and rubric right here. It's almost identical to the full rough draft assignment sheet, and the checklist and rubric are identical. But do make sure you read through this. Make sure that you double check that your paper is meeting all the requirements of the course. That's 15 full pages of writing, not including any cover pages, abstracts, works cited, references, footnotes, illustrations, etc. 15 full pages of writing. Anything under that will result in deductions, which are on the checklist. You need 12 academic articles, not books, not magazine articles. Those are okay to use if we've talked about them before, and as long as you have 12 academic articles as sources. At least 6 of those need to be a minimum of 10 full pages, and I know this by the page ranges that you put on your references or works cited page, which is why it's absolutely crucial that you have those. And if you don't, your source isn't going to be counted as one of these 6, even if it is in fact 10 full pages. You do need to have information from 2 interviews with professionals in your field, and you do need to follow all the conventions of your chosen documentation style. You've got your checklist here just to double check. Of course, obviously, all of your gateway assignments are hopefully turned in and have been marked as acceptable. Your final paper is, of course, following your approved outline. You have 15 full double-spaced pages, not including any text wrapping pages. Now that again means cover pages, abstracts, references, works cited, so on and so forth. Again, here's the information about the academic articles, and again, a note about page ranges. You want to make sure that all 12 articles, including the 6 that are at least 10 pages, are incorporated in the body of the text. You can't just have something on the works cited page, and in fact, if it's on the works cited page and not marked in the text, that's a rather big issue when you're publishing or writing for grad school or a graduation thesis or dissertation, so you want to keep that in mind. You do need quotes, paraphrases, summaries, etc., and citations from interviews with at least 2 professionals in your field, and you want to make sure that you're, of course, not plagiarizing either intentionally or unintentionally. Okay, so once you've made sure you meet all those criteria, here's the rubric that I'm going to use to grade your final paper. Now, a couple of notes about the grading on the final paper. You got a lot of comments in your papers, as well as a fairly long explanation of each score in this rubric. However, because I like to get my final grades calculated and entered as soon as possible so that if there are any questions or concerns with grades, I have time to talk about them with students before we all go on break. I am not going to be putting any comments in the body of your paper. And the only reason I will be putting extensive comments in your rubric is if a new problem has cropped up between your full rough draft and your final paper. Otherwise, you will probably just get a note here that indicates that you've improved the rubric criteria or that you've done, an excellent job and you've gotten full points. So there won't be much feedback on your final paper. However, you have gotten an extensive amount of feedback on both your half draft and your full rough draft. So I hope that explains the scoring that you'll receive on your final paper. If it doesn't and you'd like to meet and talk about scores on your final paper or talk via email or chat, let me know as soon as possible. I do generally take off a couple of weeks during the winter semester, typically after my grades are submitted, which will be sometime early next week, probably Monday or Tuesday. And then after that, I really check out till about after Christmas. So if there are any questions or concerns, you need to make sure that you get them to me as soon as possible. Now, the only other thing in this week's module is the final paper Dropbox. It's important to remember that there is absolutely no late work accepted on the final paper. And again, this is because I like them graded and returned to you by Monday. So I will get started on them first thing Saturday morning. Excuse me. So that means that the paper is due Friday, December 15th at 11:55 p.m. There are absolutely no exceptions to this rule unless there is some kind of unforeseen emergency circumstance for which you provide me documentation. Okay? But no other exceptions to this rule. All right. So I think that's it for our week 16 module. I just wanted to wrap up the semester by saying that you have all done excellent work. You're producing very high quality papers. I hope that some of you will hang on to them and use them as you continue through your studies and possibly even consider publishing them, as I've seen a couple papers this semester that I think would be very successful in the publishing world. If you ever have any questions, concerns, if you need anything in the future, you have my email address. Please feel free to let me know. And I'm always happy to just catch up with former students and know what you're doing and what your future plans are, so stay in touch. I hope you all have a wonderful, relaxing, and safe holiday break and a very productive and successful winter semester. Have a wonderful week.